We are here to explore the 8 signs of an avoidant attachment style. Imagine, if you will, a grand library of hidden stories, each tale chronicling the silent struggles, the clever escapes, and the guarded hearts of those who learned, long ago, that closeness is more perilous than solitude. Perhaps you are drawn to them, or maybe you are one of them yourself, searching for understanding in a world that too often demands emotional exchanges that feel suffocating. If so, allow me to extend my warmest welcome. We are about to slip behind the scenes of the avoidant mind, gliding into childhood echoes, silent bargains with caregivers, and the delicate fences erected to keep intimacy at bay. Let us consider this concept of avoidant attachment for a moment. Picture a child, reaching out with hesitant arms for parental warmth, only to meet curt dismissals or an aloof shrug. Or perhaps the parent, though consistently present for physical needs, rarely engaged in genuine emotional communion. The child, wise in self-preservation, concludes, "I must not lean too heavily on others, or I'll be disappointed." Thus, they grow year by year, weaving a tapestry of cool independence. It's not that they do not crave closeness. They simply learned that being fine on your own is safer than risking rejection or intrusion. And so, with a sympathetic nod to the complexities of human development, let us reveal the 8 signs that often mark the presence of an avoidant attachment style. An avoidant individual typically traces their story back to subtle or not so subtle signs in childhood that emotional expression was unwelcome. Perhaps mother or father offered a perfunctory pat on the head instead of a warm hug, or they scolded the child for tears. So from infancy onward, they discover that sharing distress reaps neither compassion nor security. One learns to just deal with it, quietly and alone. As an adult, this past can surface in statements like, "I never felt listened to when I was sad," or "My parents always praised me more when I solved my own problems." Avoidant attachment typically involves a great pride in being self-reliant. "I don't need anyone" becomes a guiding principle. These individuals were often praised for never making a fuss or acting so grown up long before they were actually grown. Now, in adulthood, they latch onto such praise as evidence that independence is not just convenient but deeply noble. Indeed, being emotionally entangled may feel downright claustrophobic. This fierce autonomy, prized by them and possibly by their family, emerges as a point of silent pride. "I can manage anything on my own." An avoidant adult often has little practice actually naming, sharing, or immersing in their own feelings. Rather than process sadness or fear, they intellectualize it away. When they are frightened or upset, they might scold themselves, stop overreacting, and press on. They excel at stifling tears, adopting an outward composure that belies inner unrest. Interestingly, physiological studies show that avoidantly attached individuals experience stress responses much like anyone else. But outwardly, they appear cool, an iceberg of calm with roiling waters beneath. In childhood, these individuals typically saw little adult enthusiasm for collaborative play. No parent kneeling on the floor to build castles or letting the child's imagination lead. Instead, they learned to enjoy activities by themselves, tinkering with puzzles, reading alone, or gazing out windows. As adults, they might scoff at shared hobbies or date-night amusements, feeling uneasy about mere frivolity. Collaborative fun can feel foreign, if not slightly awkward, so they rely on personal interests that do not demand participation by another. For the avoidant, safety hinges on clarity. Consider a guest in a grand estate who is told precisely which rooms are off limits. They prefer rules to spontaneity. In relationships, this might manifest as strict personal routines. Time blocked out for solitary pursuits. or a bedroom that's private territory. Any attempt by a partner to merge schedules or spontaneously drop by may trigger alarm. The avoidant mind begs for structure, lest it be swarmed by emotional requests it is not prepared to handle. Indeed, they can be rigid about personal space and autonomy, summarily shutting down perceived intrusions. Surprising though it may seem, avoidants often harbor a secret yearning for closeness. They see people in relationships, whispering sweet endearments, and a small part of them wonders, could that be me? Yet the moment a lover tries to draw them in, old alarms blare. This closeness will devour your individuality, and so they push away, believing independence must be preserved at all costs. Thus, they oscillate between fleeting curiosity about emotional union and outright terror at the prospect of losing themselves. This interplay can create frustration for a partner who senses, at times, that the avoidant does care, only to watch them withdraw moments later. When romance first blossoms, the avoidant can be surprisingly warm. They might go on dates, exchange playful banter, even whisper personal anecdotes. In those early stages, they haven't yet felt any genuine threat to their independence. But as soon as the partner wants more consistency, more sharing of dreams, more vulnerability, the avoidance anxiety surges. The once welcoming attitude transforms into curt replies, busy schedules, or a sudden cold front of detachment. Friends and lovers are left mystified, uncertain how someone seemingly so open has morphed into a distant figure, speaking only when necessary. Finally, avoidantly attached folks cope with big feelings by pulling away, either physically isolating themselves or turning to solitary pursuits for comfort. They might binge-watch endless series, immerse themselves in work, or devote inordinate time to solitary sports. If confronted, they may insist, "It's no big deal, I just like my me time." And indeed, me time might be the sanest approach they know for diffusing the simmering tension. Yet beneath that cool facade, a war often rages, the desire to trust and the dread of engulfment. Now you might say, all this talk of cold distance, are avoidants truly beyond warmth and closeness? Not necessarily. While it's no easy feat, avoidance can gradually unravel these old protective layers. The first clue, a willingness to recognize that the fortress they built for safety also doubles as a prison, cutting off deeper joys. A guide or therapist, or even a particularly patient, attuned partner, may coax them to lower the drawbridge inch by inch, discovering that genuine intimacy needn't entail annihilation of the self. Indeed, many a self-proclaimed lone wolf has awakened to find they adore supportive, resonant relationships once they trust they can say no or "I need space" without their partner vanishing in a huff or violating their boundaries. Of course, no transformation happens overnight. The avoidant who has spent a lifetime avoiding tears, fuss, and emotional confessions cannot simply flip a switch. One must approach it like learning a new language, the language of vulnerability. They might begin by acknowledging a single ache or revealing a small disappointment. When their confidant responds gently, without demands for more or condemnation for less, the avoidant sees that closeness can be survivable, perhaps even comforting. Over time, this new skill of emotional sharing may become less terrifying, more natural. Progress depends on patience, kindness, and a dash of bravery, both for the avoidant and for anyone who loves them. If you see these signs in yourself, you might take heart. You are not broken, merely shaped by a childhood that prized self-reliance or failed to reward your emotional bids. If you see these signs in someone you care for, do not despair. Know that avoidant hearts can and do thaw, given gentle consistency. Indeed, some of the most steadfast, steady, and dependable partners, once they've learned to trust and lean into vulnerability, come from the ranks of the formerly avoidant. Their capacity for loyalty, once they choose to attach securely, is often formidable. Why? Because they've known all too well the sting of unmet needs and the fear of intrusion. Thus, they come to cherish a partnership that respects both closeness and independence. We must, however, distinguish between a person earnestly growing out of avoidant tendencies and one who remains obstinately walled off, refusing every olive branch. The difference? Willingness. A readiness to at least experiment with honesty, to say, "I'm scared," or "I'm unsure," without retreating into ghostly silence. If that spark of willingness exists, marvelous possibilities can unfold. Now that these signs stand before you in living detail, perhaps you find them resonant, like a mirror reflecting your own patterns, or a friend's aloof behavior. Remember, dear viewer, that knowledge itself can be a stepping stone to compassion. That is, once you identify avoidant tendencies, you may gently explore where they came from. Memories of a parent too busy for bedtime stories, or the stinging memory of reaching for comfort only to be brushed aside. Such recollections can be painful, but also liberating, for they help you see that your adult aloofness once served a vital purpose, protecting a vulnerable little soul from heartbreak. So if the words 8 signs of an avoidant attachment style drew you in, I invite you, with a wry smile, to consider that acknowledging these traits is not a condemnation. Rather, it's an invitation to shape your future in a new way. By recognizing these signs, like valuing independence over closeness, preferring boundaries to open-ended intimacy, or coping in solitude, you grant yourself the chance to reflect. Is this truly how I wish to navigate relationships forever? And if the answer is no, you're on the brink of a grand adventure, learning to trust and to lean a little, discovering that closeness need not be fatal, that two humans can be bound without tangling each other in eternal knots. And so our exploration of avoidant attachment draws to a close, leaving you, I hope, with insights that illuminate your path. Should you find yourself entwined with an avoidant partner, or suspect that you are, in fact, the avoidant wanderer, may empathy, understanding, and a patient curiosity guide you forward. For just as the shyest creature can be coaxed from its hiding place by gentle offerings, so too can the avoidant heart be nudged into the sunlight of authentic connection. You need only the courage to keep the door ajar, allowing the possibility that shared vulnerability might, after all, be the sweetest joy of all.
If you believe this video might help someone dear to you, share it with them. A small gesture on your part could mean the world to a friend in need.